Another video, wide mouth bowl. All right, a little down and dirty, just having a fun here. Let's talk about coning up for a second. It's more about squeezing, it's not about pulling. You want to be able to displace the clay so that it moves up into a cone shape. It's about the right pressure. Too much chokes the top and it stops spinning. Too little and you move nothing along. It's also about practice, so keep that in mind. All right, now let's also talk about when you push it over, because it's about pushing it over, not pushing it down. Once you start to push it forward and it starts to collapse on itself, then you can add pressure and move down. That will help you to center the clay on its own. If you just push it down, wherever the clay is, the clay just does that and go down. You want to redistribute the clay and make your life easier so things get centered. All right, look at that. So once your clay is centered, you need to get it to as wide as you need for your bowl, your plate, whatever. Notice I put my hand on the top and I roll my hand over. I don't just push it down once again, I roll it over the top. That's going to help to distribute your clay more evenly and keep your mound centered, because that's really the most important thing, is about centering. All right, once you get this baby centered, I open up. I like to open it up so it's wide, I can see in, I can see how deep I'm going, I can understand what's going on. Look, I'm using a little bit of a sponge to protect my rim, to keep it from going crazy. My fingers are really working the bottom, working the floor, getting it as deep as I want. Now, I want a small curved bottom because it's going to be a very tiny foot, and I want a thick, fun, tall foot. So I am going to compress, as you can see, compress the living heck out of the bottom because I don't want a nest crack. I'm using a nice stiff wooden rib. It has a nice curve to it. That way I know I have the shape in the floor that I want. All right, check my rim, get my thumb under there, a little undercutting so that I can get a nice amount of clay. Pulling with my left hand, really the thumb is the action, and I'm just creating a seat for the clay to sit on and pulling it up. A little height, a little wobble. Sometimes I'm studying what not to do, but I'm going to keep going. I want to bring this up. I'm kind of pushing in so my foot will get a little smaller, and that way I can bring the clay up and get a little wider. You always want to open up, you always want to bring your clay down wider than you need, so as you push in and your foot gets smaller, you don't go from being a nice size into some teeter-totter little thing that you can't even control. So I push in, I pull up, push in, and each time I'm bringing out a little bit wider. This will also mean with this type of bowl, since I'm going so wide, it's just not going to keep getting taller and taller because I'm going wider and wider. And I really need to keep an eye on my rim and the thickness, because I don't want to be pulling out wider and wider and then having the clay up at the top towards the lip getting so thin that it collapses. Notice I'm going slow. I'm kind of taking care of each ring of clay up and up. The pressure is on the sponge. I have my fingers on the other side and my hand is together. My thumbs are together so I can process how thick, how thin things are. So, yep, I've gotten a little wonky. I'm not going to worry. My wheel is going not too fast, relatively slow, and it really comes down to making sure that I'm not moving faster than the wheel and doing it in concentric circles. If you go too fast, you throw it off, and that's when you can start to see it getting really wonky and unmanageable. Like right there. Look at that wonkiness. I'm just gonna keep going, because that's who I am a lot of times. But I will manage my rim by keeping my fingers there, a little bit of pressure, and I will be back on center. Look at the shape of this baby. It's not as tapered in as you would think. It's actually rounder on top, and then I've got the bits on the bottom. Let's talk about that. Very wide top. And then it's going to come down into a tiny little foot. That's great. But right now, because when I'm throwing, what we have going on will be in blue. I've got relatively thin top and somewhat shaped, and then I have this thickness. Look at this thickness. That thickness is going to give me strength in the wet stage. It's going to give me strength as I try and shape. It is going to hold everything up as I'm throwing. When I start putting pressure on, that extra clay down on the bottom is going to mean that I'm not going to just collapse. But when I'm in the trimming stage, that is what I will get rid of. I will get rid of that extra clay. So it's not going to be as thin as you think it should be. You trim the outside, you throw the inside. Right here, metal rib. And now what I'm doing is I am compressing my walls to make them thicker. While I'm compressing, I'm getting rid of the excess slippy clay. That will give me a stronger pot. Once I get the outside compressed and clean, I work on the inside. I like using a stiff wooden rib. This one is oblong with a gentle curve. I'll compress my bottom and get the excess water out, usually going from the outside in again. Then I will anchor my rib to where the floor and the wall meets, and I will lean the rib so that the wall conforms to the rib. This way I get an easy, consistent, and beautiful shape. Remember, shaping is a subtle act. And you can see it just comes out just a little. Shaping your pots is not some large gesture usually, it's something very tiny. You also have to realize is that bottom that seems oddly straight will get trimmed off in the end. Okay, once I just make sure my rim's all nice, give it the shape I want, I like a thick rim, and then make sure that your wheel is spinning while you are cutting it off because you don't want to distort it in the end. All right, I've got these lovely pots. And now, let's get trimmed. First of all, you need to know, I'm a give and give kind of girl. Makes it easier. This is my favorite tool. It's a giant fan shape. You might think that I am pushing in, but really I am pushing down. That'll help me to get rid of excess clay and start to get a rudimentary foot ring. Want to get that extra clay on the outside. I am mimicking the shape on the inside. It's a little wonky. I'll survive. Once I kind of get the outside into a gesture of my foot ring, I will then go and establish the inside. I like to give myself a little leeway so that if anything goes wrong, I can fix it. If you'll notice, I am angled towards the center. You don't want to be angled the other way because then if you make your foot ring too small, there's nowhere to go. I like to go thicker and make it thinner, but I will establish the inside and then I will clear out as much clay as I need. This is a relatively thick foot because that's the way I wanted it. So I will get that all out. Keep going, smooth it over. Then I can go back and finish up my foot ring. If my trimming tool gets caught anywhere, hopefully my foot is thick enough so that I can work with it, fix it. Okay. Ultimately, we are going for an even wall thickness. Once that's happened, I will then go and smooth the outside. A little water and a very bendy plastic rib is one of my favorites. I will also use the metal rib. Do the foot ring, get that all nice, because I'm going to not glaze the outside. It's going to be its beautiful, fabulous self. Don't forget to sign your pots. I'm just a little SA. There it is, that's it. Okay. Trimmed up, smoothed up, slipped up. They are drying. Time to get them into it. Gil. Thanks for watching.